Created this channel because I am very hard on my gear. Very hard on my knives, very hard on my backpacks, boots, equipment, all of it. I tend to be a bit like a bull in a china shop, or if you will, like a wild hog running through the bush. I've ruined a lot of stuff, I've beat on a lot of stuff, and I figure if anything, I can use some of that wasted equipment and money on spreading the information along to you. I have an interest in some prettier knives and some fancier steels, and I'm going to get more into that, I think, as these years and this channel progresses. But for the most part, my gear has been cheap to mid-range, and it's stuff that you can pretty much pick up anywhere at your general, hardware appliance store or whatever, or online, Amazon, or your different knife and gear equipment stores that are online nowadays. Quite a bit of research before picking up my first Recon one, and I guess the other first real fixed blade I picked up was this now discontinued large Heavy Bowie from K-Bar. Two steels that I've got the most experience with because of these knives are AUS 8, which, by the way, this is the old school AUS 8 version. I did get this back in 2013, as well as this K-Bar, which is in 1085, which is very similar to 1095 carbon steel, which is very common outdoor hard-use knife steel. But yeah, so these two knives have seen a decent amount of abuse, the Recon one especially. But this has also been doing some damage over the years, cutting down some pretty large trees it shouldn't have any business cutting down. Recently finally picked up a Spyderco, some Manix 2, just the very plain Jane S30V black G10 version. My first more expensive knife that I'd say I'm less likely to want to absolutely beat the crap out of. But this knife is only a month old and the edge is worn down, and I've definitely been trying to see what it can do. So this isn't going to be as beat on as, say, what is going to be the staple of this channel, the Recon 1. Well, that one there has been through 8 years of, I don't want to say torture, but it's been used for what it was meant for, and then some. But I don't think the Manix 2 is going to get beat on quite as hard, but I'm going to put it through its paces. So yeah, I've been sitting here, we've been looking at this for a while. Please follow me at hardongearchannel, Instagram, all one word, no underscores. Follow the Instagram and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and turn that notification bell on so that you can get all the info in these videos and pictures and reviews as they come up. So look for those Monday uploads, as well as I'll probably be knocking some bonus footage up there the next few weeks just to kind of populate the channel a little bit at first. Yeah, we'll get that Recon 1 out here for you to take a look at while we're moving on. So, channel objectives: maintain as much honesty and transparency as the internet allows. So I'm going to do some editing here just to try and trim down my rambling. And if I do something stupid, I'm going to try and show it. If I cut myself, I'm certainly going to let you know so that you can see the stupidity of my life, which is why this channel, I think, is going to be so valuable. I do stuff that people probably shouldn't do with their equipment, vehicles, whatever. I'm going to hopefully take some of the damage for you so that you can move on and do the smarter thing, which is not abuse your gear. Priority number 2, to prioritize the practicality over all the what-ifs and hypotheticals. I personally wish a few more channels would talk about the fun stuff, like, what would we do if this knife was our only knife, at the end of the world, zombie apocalypse? Probably unlikely, but plenty of countries have experienced their version of the end of the world before, and North America, we've been very lucky in our last 50, 60, 70 years. The other stuff I like to talk about is the survival, self-defense kind of situation scenario, which, hey, I work in the woods, and I very well may get lost in the woods one day, so talking about those possible situations and what you might do in them are pretty important. For the most part, my defensive mindset is around what happens if I get attacked by a coyote or have a bad run-in with a bear in the woods or something like that, which is extremely unlikely, especially where I live. We'll say most of the bears here know what people are. The only association they have as far as us and food are our compost bins. And priority number 3, to expand my knowledge and keep learning and growing, and to share all of that with you good people of the internet while I'm going along this journey. So subscribe, join along, keep listening and watching for what should be, I think, a very productive and very helpful knife and gear review channel. So yeah, some of the channels that I do watch: Blade HQ, Knife Center, Metal Complex, Kevin Cleary, Canadian, Gideon's Tactical, The Knife Beater, Nick Shabazz, all the common stuff you guys are all listening to for a long time. So I'm going to try my best to not copy those channels, but definitely emulate what I believe are the best aspects of a lot of them. You won't see as many fancy high-end collector items as Metal Complex has on his channel. You're not going to see as many cold steels as Kevin Cleary has on his. Blade HQ certainly has a better knife library than I have. I'm going to do what I can with this channel, and I'm not going to go waste a ton of money on a bunch of knives I won't use, but I'm going to be adding to my collection, and I'd be curious to find out if there's knives that aren't on my radar that I should be looking at. So, and as the time goes on, and maybe this channel develops, I might be able to get in a position where I get my hands on more knives. So, on that topic, I've been doing a lot of research the last few months trying to upgrade my general EDC carry. So, this has been with me for, better part of 8 years. Nothing but good things to say about the Cold Steel Recon 1. And this is the OS 8 version, so I only paid $120 Canadian for this. And, you know, I think it's probably about 160, 170 now, a bit closer to your Spyderco premium price. But this has been a fantastic knife, and I just needed to replace it because, to be honest, it's finally started to wear down a little bit. Not in any way that it's become dysfunctional, but there's a little bit of blade play. Probably my fault during reassembly after cleaning. But nonetheless, great knife. I'm ready to move on to something. The other thing, a little less, a little less scary to some people, because some people see something with that shape, the profile, the black on black, and the size of it. I've certainly gotten some looks at some birthday parties or Christmas, mornings where we're never opening a present. Excuse me, sir, why don't you put away your weapon? Because it does sort of have that feel, and to be honest, it's kind of partially what it's created for. But it is a tool, not a weapon, just for record, here in Canada. To buy that Manix 2, which I'm very happy with. As far as hard use Spydercos, this seems to be one of the better choices, as well as kind of the reason this Manix 2 was invented. Full steel liners on both sides, solid G10 handles, just a solid knife. Very hefty. A little bit lighter, a little bit smaller, a little less overbuilt than the Recon 1. Very happy with this so far, about a month in. At the same time, also picked up Esee Izula II. So looked at the Izula 1 and 2, and for me, I've got medium to large hands. I can squeeze into a medium glove, but a small large, we'll say. So I could get away with the Izula 1, but I mean, to have that little extra room to move around, and I don't need to conceal this, as a concealed carry weapon, so that micarta handle with the extra inch or so of handle length, it's very awesome. I should say micarta scales, because that is a full tang fixed blade. Not a very big one, but a very, very robust and very capable one. And you can see I've done a little modification there that I've seen. Wish I could remember the channel to give them credit at the moment, but just filed off the back edge here to remove the coating, reveal that carbon steel, and just taped a little, actually the magnesium striker that come with it in the little survival kit that you can get for like an extra $30 or something like that. So yeah, that's the little fixed blade I've been EDCing for the last month along with that. And I've had my various multi-tools over the years. I've had, my very first knife was I can't remember the exact version or model, but it was a small Victorinox Swiss Army knife. Could have been a knockoff, to be honest. I was 8 or 9 years old, and I thought it was, I got a knife for my birthday present or whatever. I better be allowed to keep this, and hey, I was given the speech, don't be stupid, don't cut yourself, and so far, I've nicked myself here and there, but nothing serious. But this is actually my dad's. This is the only thing he'll carry because he's got a lot of other things he's had for gifts and small little pocket knives. And this is the most utilitarian for what he does. He is a kind of a tradesman electrician kind of deal. So that's the only thing that really suits his needs and is small enough that he'll actually carry it for what he gets out of it. So, but I've had different things. I've had a couple of these. I've had various multi-tools, most of which are somewheres in the woods across Canada because these nylon straps aren't built tough enough for me, unfortunately. So I've lost a lot of multi-tools that way. I've come to carry them on carabiners off of my bag or something else so that they're a little bit less likely to snag off my hip. But this is budget one, but I'll do a review on this at some time because this Spyderco multi-tool, for the price of it, boy, I don't think I paid $40-50 Canadian for this, and this is just an awesome durable little tool for the price of it. Didn't want to carry that stuff all the time, so to add to this new EDC, I did get the Leatherman Squirt. I've seen them, but to be honest, I just didn't know what they were. I didn't know they had a name. I'd seen people with little keychain Leathermans like this, and whether it was the micro or the Squirt. The Leatherman Squirt's just a tiny little tool with the pliers, which I wanted to have something this size, smaller than this. I think this is the Victorinox Tourist. to have something that small with a set of pliers, knife, file, scissors, pretty slick for the size of this thing. Been carrying that in my coin pocket, my jeans, or my back pocket, depending on what I'm wearing. Carrying that in my regular pocket. I've been carrying this appendix carry, and just the first time I've really EDC'd a fixed blade. I've had different ones before that I've carried on my hip and stuff, and you know, the fact is, carrying a large knife, you get a lot of looks, and in Canada here, we're not allowed to carry things for defense, so you go walking around with a big knife, you best look like you just came out of the woods. Often I did, so I could get away with it, but this is a lot more, you know, casual. And if I pull out this, you pull out a K-bar USMC to open up a package or something at work, and people are going to look at you funny. Trust me, they look at you funny. This is a little more manageable. And the other thing I did was buy an extra sheath, ground it down on the grinder, and sandpapered it off a little bit. Sanded it off a bit, and nothing pretty. This is pretty much about as pretty as I get with any of my gear modifications. But essentially, it's just a little slip so I can stick it in my pocket, and I do have a little cord off here so that I can loop it through my belt loop so that, you know, if you do draw it, you don't have to worry about dropping the sheath or doing any of that stuff. You can just pull it out of your pocket, get it in there, pull it out of your pocket, and it sheath just dangles off you. I do like carrying it this way, especially if I'm just in jeans and a t-shirt. So that's the new EDC, replacing really the cold steel as the only thing I carried before, because all my other knives were a bit too large to carry at any point in time, not look ridiculous, and say the Leathermans I just lost and don't really like carrying them on my hip. So the plan for now for this channel is to remain anonymous. You will never see my name on the channel or on the Instagram. This is the Hard On Gear channel handle that I will be going with for the foreseeable future. As I'm a government worker, identifying myself on camera limits what I'm allowed to say without getting fired or sued or in trouble. So this will give me some ability to say what I want and give some opinions, and without having to worry about those reflecting my workplace and them getting all mad at me for that. So yeah, so that's what we're doing for now. I may one day decide to show my face, depending on, you know, what job I have at the time or whatever. Although I may look back and say, what the hell was my 30-ish something self doing on the internet, giving his opinions out? May not want to show my face. So just to give you my quick personal and professional background, I am a forest technician and a wildland firefighter by trade. I've spent the last 10 years between school and work doing various things, mostly around wildfire management and suppression. Wildlife, whether that's endangered wildlife management, wildlife call-outs where, you know, hey, there's a raccoon trying to fight my house cat in the front yard, come deal with it. There's a ton of different stuff we do with wildlife. And the other stuff is a lot of general forestry, you know, going out in the woods, checking on harvesting operations and things like that. But, you know, wildfire is really where my interest is. That's been the highlight of my career, and as far as where I've learned most of the stuff around gear and, you know, tested most of my equipment, that's been the place. So that's where I've learned a lot about sharpening from some of the coworkers I've had there. And really some of the most interesting, if not all of the most interesting people I've met in my life have been my buddies who I've been on those fire deployments with. So, and that's generally, you know, I've been on, I guess 11 out-of-province trips now. British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario. I've never made it down to the States yet. Some of our folks made it down to Australia last year. I got my passport about a week later. Shame on me. Generally, we're out there hucking weight around the woods, carrying hose, carrying pumps, digging fire line, removing brush and limbs and trees. And it's not quite as intense as some of the movies and stuff make it seem. Every now and then we get to see some big flame, but for the most part, we're running around just sweating and kind of being tired and cranky, and it's a kind of cool environment. The out-of-province trips, sometimes we're staying in huge tent cities with like kind of like an oil camp sort of setup with lots of you know, modular trailers and things and decent amenities for the rugged, you know, rugged-ish conditions. Some provinces we are camping out in the middle of nowheres on the fire line, sometimes right in the black cooked over forest. That's when we get a lot of the interesting bear encounters, wildlife, you know, coyote, wolves, all sorts of different things out in the different provinces. A lot of the camping, a lot of the kind of bushcraft stuff that I've done has been in that context. Shelter building, you know, even building, let's say, bear spears and knives and different stuff like that out of wood, just for fun, when you've got lots of time to kill, say when you're watching the fire pump on pump duty. That's not a super glamorous job, so you make a lot of shit out of wood. I've used my knives a lot just killing time. I got Bic lighters everywhere. I've got plenty of decent tools, and I've normally come well equipped, so I try not to get myself in a situation where I got to do too much crafty bushcraft. But I practice a little bit of firecraft and stuff like that. It's something I'll do more of in this channel, and you get to see me struggle and improve with that. As far as my personal life goes, I am a pretty odd character, and I've got a lot of varied interests. I tend to pick up a new hobby pretty much every year, and you know, I'll go pretty hard at that till I make like the 80 or 90% competency line, and I don't need to be an expert at it, but I get good at it. Then I move on to the next thing, and sometimes that thing stays in my life, and sometimes other things get filtered out. But generally speaking, that's how my life works. Some of the big stuff that's stuck around has been music. I've been playing guitar for many years, and I've played some different like benefits and variety shows, hosted some open mics and stuff like that. But the drunker you are, the better I sound. We'll just say that. As far as the music interests go, they're pretty narrow range from like, you know, rock and alt-rock, metal, Black Keys, Pantera, Zeppelin, Muse, Lamb of God, general direction. I'm also quite into fitness, nutrition, health, that sort of thing, making sure that I'm able to do these physical tasks that I enjoy doing for as long as I possibly can. Started lifting weights towards the end of high school. I was fortunate enough to have a world championship powerlifter from our hometown. He took a few of us under his wing, and that's where I kind of got my foundation, and from there I've tried to broaden my horizons and just keep my mind open when it comes to diet and fitness, and understand that everyone's got their different opinions, and you're never going to agree on stuff, and trying to convince people about a diet or a certain exercise or something versus their own belief is kind of like trying to change someone's religion. The other part of the fitness is the martial arts side, which I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for about 8 years, although I'm one of those lazy blue belts who, you know, trained about 2-3 times a week when I was really training, sometimes more than that, and then the last 3 years really I've teetered off quite a bit as I've changed my priorities up, and to be honest, jiu-jitsu is just not a huge part of my life right now. It will always be a part of my life, and I do intend, as I go through my 30s and 40s, to continue to train, and I do hope to get that black belt one day. But to be honest, jiu-jitsu is not a singular focus for me. Got to the point where basically, 9 out of 10 people on the street I'm not going to be super concerned about, and that's kind of, the baseline I was looking for when I first started. I've done some tournaments, but for the most part, my interest was always self-defense. And that's the context I've tried to keep it in whenever I learn something new. I've also done a little bit of boxing and Muay Thai throughout the years. I'm certainly no expert at that. And if you put a really good, 16 or 18-year-old kid, close enough to my size who's trained for 6 or 8 months, they're going to whoop my ass up and down the mat. I can pretty much guarantee that. But again, 9 out of 10 people on the street, throw a few good leg kicks, give them an elbow. I'm going to hope they just run away and that we can leave it at that. Filipino martial arts has been a really big hobby of mine, and as far as my day-to-day life goes, that has been a staple of my life for the last 2 years. I live in a small town, so keep in mind, when I say Filipino martial arts, I'm talking whatever I can find on the internet that seems to be relatively bullshit-free, and then training with friends in the basement when I can get them down there, and at the very least, just running through the motions, and, I've got tires and dummies and stuff set up. I'm sure we'll get some footage of me making an ass of myself down there as this channel develops, just so you can kind of see some of the stuff I talk about when I talk about was my very half-baked self-defense advice that I can give you, which is more theoretical and more for just the sake of conversation. And if you don't think about this stuff, you're not going to be able to use it when you get attacked by an animal or whatever you're getting attacked by, just because when the stress hits, your cortisol goes up, you start shaking, and trying to do something like fine motor movement wise, it's not going to work. You're going to panic, and something's going to happen that you're not expecting, and you're going to drop your knife or whatever. So I train a lot with that stuff in mind, just to put the reps in, because, hey, coyote attacks you, you're typically not going to be face-to-face with it. You're going to get jumped, and it's not a likely thing. You're honestly just as likely to get hit by lightning, but if it happens, it's got to be a reflex to, go to whatever you're going to go to defend yourself with. So use my knives to carve different, like, Filipino martial arts sticks and stabs and stuff like that, just to, save some money from not buying expensive stuff. And to be honest, some of the stuff you buy on the internet is crap, and I'd rather get a nice piece of oak from the woods and use that. In that, saying that I am a forest technician, I'm going to refer multiple times about using my knives to cut down like full-size trees and stuff like that. Whenever I'm talking about that, I want you to know that I'm not just going cutting random stuff down in the woods. There's a science of silviculture, which basically means you're going to take the trees that are going to improve the entire forest as a whole. So if you've got 2 trees here, 1 tree's healthy, 1 tree's not, both of those trees aren't going to be able to thrive in that tight little space. Removing one of them opens up the ability for this tree to live up to its full potential, essentially. So when I'm choosing a tree for to make we'll say a bear spear or something like that out of it, and I'm doing it with the intention of improving the forest when I do it, and I'm not going to say kill a tree that I feel could actually be a healthy tree if I would have left it. So keep that in mind, just to save myself some negative comments. And hey, if you still think I'm a evil tree monster, feel free to comment away down there. Outside of those main hobbies of, say, music, health and fitness, and martial arts, like I get into all kinds of stuff. I've constantly got something in my ear trying to learn about history or life, philosophy. I'm a jack of all trades, certainly a master of none, and I just try and seek knowledge in all things that I can. And you might hear me go on some random tangents, and you might hear some random stuff come up in there, and that's just, it's not necessarily that I'm an expert in any of them. It's just that I get my mind wrapped up in a lot of things, and sometimes those random tidbits just fly out. So definitely do your own fact checking. Don't take anything I say as a 100% guarantee for anything. And if I do ever give you a guarantee on it, it's my opinion and my opinion only. Something else to touch on right quick is that I will be transitioning to the military in the next few months. So I applied late 2019 and COVID-19 really slowed that down, but the next few months I should be going to basic and going through all that initial training. So you might see a little bit of a lull as far as message response and that kind of thing, but I'm going to try and keep enough videos backlogged that I can maintain a weekly upload schedule all throughout that time. If there are any gaps, I will apologize now for that, but we're going to try and make sure that doesn't happen and plan ahead. Two other facts that you might want to know is I am a southpaw left-handed individual, so this Recon 1, I lost the left-handed clip for it, but for the longest time when I was carrying it, I was drawing it and then, you know, reverse flicking it like so in order to get that reverse grip, drawing it, and then I could just reposition. And I don't know how much camera room I got here, but I got pretty good at fiddling around with this knife and feeling pretty comfortable with it in my hand, so that if you are ever going to fumble a knife, hopefully you're not going to cut yourself in the process, and that you're going to be able to regain your grip without slipping onto the blade. Here, I'll put that out for you. I've got a black clip for this on the way too, actually, so that's a little too showy for me out the pocket. Just says, hey, look what I'm carrying. I really like the spoon clip, especially compared to this. The cold steel clip's nice. It's very short. It carries pretty well, but it is rough on the pocket, and it's kind of hard to manipulate. This here, you are not missing this spoon, and it goes into the pocket much easier, and I feel very secure with it so far. But I did move this over to the left side, so this Manix 2, the reason I picked this Spyderco in particular, among just certain reasons, but one of the main reasons was certainly the ambidexterity of it. So that ball bearing lock I can manipulate with either hand pretty easily. It's completely ambidextrous, as you can move the clip either tip down, which is fine, or sorry, tip up, because I don't know who would want to carry tip down, but the tip up position on here is left or right, and I've got it on the left hand side. That's why you're seeing a difference here is which clip's on which side. Also, as I think I touched on already, I am Canadian, so keep that in mind. I'm going to try and remember to separate prices and talk, Canadian versus American if I bring up a price of a knife. Most of our laws around self-defense and that sort of thing are federally regulated. That's just something to keep in mind. Also, when it comes to shipping or availability of certain products, I don't have the options that a lot of Americans have to get every single flavor of every single knife, so sometimes, if there's 6 versions of a knife, we might only have access to 1 or 2 of them because of the issue getting them across the border from the manufacturer. Just keep that in mind. Also, I am from the East Coast. I won't name my province, but just know that I am very close to salt water on a regular basis. The humidity, even in the summer, rarely drops below 40 or 50%. We're in a very humid, very salty environment. You can taste the salt in the air when you get off the plane from Alberta, let me tell you. So, the AUS 8, certainly, I've never had any issues with this rusting, and the 1095, to be honest, I've not taken care of as much as I should have. If you look at this K-Bar USMC 1211, actually the 1214, which I'll touch on in my K-Bar video. And this here, I've never really done much to oil and protect the sharpened portion of the blade. It's 1095, but it is coated. And I've never had much rush issues in here. There's certainly been times where I've said, ooh, I should have probably put something on that and gave it a quick sharpen, and all of a sudden it looks, well, I'd say like new, but it doesn't look rusty. I'm going to try maybe pick up some D2, and I'd like to try some M4 and see how well that holds up, and I will try and take care of it, but I want to know what I can get away with in the salty environment. Speaking of salty environment, one of my next knives is certainly going to be a Spyderco Pacific Salt 2, because that is the perfect work knife for someone who lives out here. You can pretty much put it in your pocket, leave it there forever. For a fisherman to have something like that just tucked away, I think that's a great saltwater knife, obviously, because it's basically rust proof, and it's built to be a almost like a diver's knife. So for video topics, when I can, on knives that I have had for many months or years, I will do a long-term hard use review where I talk about what I put it through and how it's held up over time. I will also talk about some kind of early impressions reviews. So once I've had this Manix here for another month or so, I'll probably do my first 2 or 3 month review on it. Same for the Esee Izula II, because I've been testing these out. I was actually out for work. We were doing some training. And, you know, at lunchtime, we had a fire. It's winter right now, so had a fire in the woods, cooked some hot dogs and sausages, that kind of thing. And pretty much right away, I figured I'd end up being on, you know, wiener stick duty. That sounded off, yeah. So I tried both of these knives out, and, you know, it's, I'll get talking about this in the reviews. I certainly need some more time before I can really tell you what I think of these and what their limitations are. This I wouldn't want to beat on like I do with this. The common thing you'll hear is fixed blades have all the strengths that folders don't, and vice versa. So that's why I've been really liking the idea of carrying both, along with that Leatherman Squirt as that multi-tool, just to kind of round out any situation where I might need a set of pliers or a set of scissors. Or how many times I've wished I had a small freaking flathead or Phillips screwdriver on me. Show the pliers off here for a minute. Spring action pliers too, did I say that? That's awesome. One of the other things I'll be doing on this channel are what many of you knife YouTube video viewers enjoy, which are knife battle comparison videos. We might talk about something like, well, not even the best comparison in the world, but I'm sure going to do a video between the Manix 2 and the Steel Recon 1. They are kind of built, you know, to be your hard use EDC folders. So different size, different materials, but still, you know, early on in my channel, until I can get a few more, you know, S30Vs and different comparable steels to compare knives to appropriately, this is what we're going to do. But I'll be picking up a few of the generic, you know, size comparisons and different knives that I've not tried yet. So I'm probably going to try and get our Rat number 1 and D2. And, you know, stuff like that I have not tried that most people are familiar with. But we'll definitely be seeing some comparison videos talking about that kind of stuff. Also going to talk about picking the right tool for the right job. And, you know, as much as I like cutting down large trees and it feels good to say, look what I did with my little Recon 1, that's not what the tool's made for. And we'll just talk a little bit about the limitations of certain tools on the lines of, you got a decent mid-range, I think I paid 40, 50 bucks for this little Fisker's hatchet. Common, streamlined, you know, just anything you can pick up at your local hardware store. And I've used this quite a long time, and it's, you know, got its drawbacks. For me, I wanted something I pretty much figured I could not break, because I'd broken a few cheap wooden ones. And anyway, that's why I picked this up. But that's sort of the thing where I can say, hey, is it worth paying 50 bucks for something like this? Are you fine just going with a $20 hatchet? Should you go up and spend $120, $150 on something a little fancier? Should you go spend 100 or 200 bucks on some nice hand-forged, beautiful Swedish axe, which, hey, I probably would and should. I tend to be pretty consistent with my EDC, but I'm certainly going to touch on the different EDC stuff that I play around with, knives, gear. I'm not much of a flashlight guy, but I'll talk about like the couple of flashlights I'll buy, just your cheap Amazon stuff that if I lose it, it's great, whatever, no problem. I'm pretty basic with my watch selections and stuff. I want something that's not pretty, that I'm not afraid to lose, but basically it's got Velcro because I've snapped off too many pins of non-Velcro watches, and that's pretty much my limitation. I've got, you know, my Whoop strap here that I've been using for the last 6 months to collect some health data. That's a, I bought that so I could use it for wildfire fighting and jiu-jitsu, and it's a pretty simple collector. However, it's a little bit different from your Fitbits and stuff, but I'm sure I'll make a video talking about that too. So some outside of the knife and gear realms, there's a few things that I can talk about, such as, you know, something like that, fitness related, maybe some fitness equipment. I could certainly do a review talking about my Mazda CX-3 and the abuse I put that woods buggy through. I've had that for a little over 3 years now, and I've put that in places a lot of people wouldn't put their trucks. And it's all-wheel drive, and I haven't gotten it stuck before, but it's been mighty close, and I've certainly found the skid plate underneath quite a few times. And I could show you how I've got that set up for my you know, outdoor activities. And it's not very pretty, and it's not super organized, but it's I've got a lot of function in that thing. And hey, if the world ended, it's not got a big gas tank, but I'm gonna go find somewheres to hide and build a camp somewheres, and I could tuck that thing in pretty much anywheres. So I may branch out slightly from there over time, but probably not much. The idea is basically going to be gear and knife reviews, and there's some, you know, a few other things, plenty other different fixed blades. We can talk about more knives all day. You know, just cheap, generic folding saws, again, that you'd see in any hardware store, like a Stihl dealership. Different choppers, machetes. There's your CRKT, Chance and Hell Bolo, Ken Onion design. Just a very nice you know, very compact chopper for what you can do with it. This is actually an old, I think, Mexican-made, very large machete. Could call it a small sword. The full extent won't fit on camera. A bit overkill, but kind of cool old antique that I got from an old landlady, helping her clean out her attic. The other thing I've got a lot of is a lot of these sort of like trainers and different things, different knives, like these 24-inch kind of 2-foot Filipino martial arts style sticks, along with some of these trainers that are kind of modeled after some common things like this KR 1211 size, which I've obviously broken that off of by throwing it at something. If I'm going to talk about self-defense on this channel, just know that I'm doing it as a untrained professional. I have no enforcement background, although for a the entirety of my life, I've planned on doing either some kind of police or military, so every time I've had a chance to learn something from somebody, I have, and I try my best to not be a bullshitter and try to sift through as much bullshit as I can. So let me say, not an expert, but I will try and give you only practical information and not give you anything I feel would put yourself at risk if you were to take it, at face value. Make sure that if you see something that you think, hey, that could be a good self-defense thing, research it in multiple different areas. Don't just take my word for it, and look for some experts. Watch out for a lot of the fine motor movements. I would do this, and this, then he drops the knife. It should be a little more broad than that, but I really enjoy Dr. Rodney King, Tony Blauer's spear system, broad philosophical, John Donaher's jiu-jitsu philosophy, these broad concepts that you can kind of build an entire game around without having to have 15 different ways to do everything, because in the stressed out situation of getting attacked or having to defend yourself, you're gonna panic and things are gonna fail. Even a trained person, you're not gonna be able to pull off a 9-step omoplata, submission or whatever off your back when somebody's trying to punch you in the face. Maybe, but it's not gonna be my first move. In Canada, these are tools, and let me just say, this is a training tool for martial arts, but that's all that is. This K-Bar, a USMC fighting utility knife. And Canada's not a fighting utility knife. That's just a tool. That's a tool that I use in the woods. And if I happen to get attacked by a coyote or a bear, this becomes a self-defense tool. That's all it is, not a weapon. Because in Canada, you cannot use a weapon to defend yourself. You cannot carry something on your person with the intent of defending yourself. And I'm sure maybe I'll touch on a full self-defense in Canada video. Just to repeat that really loud and clear for everybody, if you ever hear me talk about self-defense on this channel or using a knife in the context of self-defense, know that it is not in the context of defending myself against a person or using it against a person. If a person attacks me, I will not use these unless by chance I'm just grabbing for something and I'm going to grab a stick or a bat or whatever is near me. I don't know why a bat would be near me, but in a self-defense situation, I'm going to try and leg kick and do all this, run away as quickly as I can. If I've got to use my jiu-jitsu, I've already screwed up and now I'm on the ground. That's not great, but I'm going to start throwing shit. I'll be doing a lot of things before I would ever think of drawing a knife to use as a weapon, because I've just escalated the situation in a way that I'm not going to be able to step back from. The chances of somebody brandishing a knife, looking at me and saying, I'm going to stab you, that's like 1 out of 100. The vast majority of the time, you're going to look down, see that your shirt's wet, and then you're going to start getting a little bit lightheaded. Realistically, it's not likely. And again, in Canada, you're just asking for trouble. If I got attacked and I'd successfully defended myself with a knife, I'm still going to jail. Just know that. So always, when I talk about this, it's in the context of a self-defense against a wild animal. So that wild animal could be a coyote, could be a bear, could be a bobcat. I mean, random chance of any of that happening. Very, very slim. But hey, there's also, in almost every urban center in North America at least, coyotes kicking around everywhere. So who's to say I'm not walking downtown somewheres and I get attacked by a coyote? Wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world, right? So why not just be prepared and train for that? Then if that worst case scenario happened and I reflexively grabbed something and that something on my body happened to be one of these, I really would be happy that I had that reflex built into my body and my brain. So just, again, always in self-defense in Canada, only for wildlife, right? And don't go out looking for wildlife problems, but hey, it does happen. And please let me know if any of these video ideas are catching your interest. Comment below and let me know what you'd like to see for these. So I am going to try and do a gear giveaway at 1,000 subscribers. That may not be for a little while. It may be in 6 months, a year, 2 years. It's really hard to say. But when I get to that 1,000 subscribers, I'll be doing a nice giveaway. Whether that is my tried and true Recon 1, and I probably won't give mine away, but what I'll do is I'll order from the country you are in, assume assuming I can do that and get it shipped to you from within that country, so there's no border issues or anything like that. But it could be, you know, something like this that I have used more than anything that I trust. It could be a new knife that I pick up that I become a big fan of. But generally speaking, it's going to be a hard use piece of gear, a hard use knife that I know for sure that can be used and abused, that I, you know, has been selected and approved by this channel, and that'll be what I'm looking to give away. So keep an eye out for that. 1,000 subscribers, we'll be doing some kind of a giveaway. Thanks for watching, and this is the Hard On Gear channel signing off.